All right, guys, so we're going to take a look at the Dungeon big box expansion for Talisman. One of my favorite, if not the favorite, board game out there for Fritz. Definitely in my top five. It kind of bounces back and forth between number one and number two, depending on who I'm playing with. And the first question is, if you're into Talisman and the bug has bit you and it kind of progresses to more than just a casual game that you take down off your gaming shelf and play every now and then, what expansion to get? And there's a lot out there, brings a lot of variety to the game system. So the first question is, do you need them? If you're thinking about picking up Talisman, do I need the expansions to enjoy the game? Absolutely not. And I think that is the first value in this game system. You can play the regular version just for a long time. I have the Black Library version over there, and for years, that's all I played. There's a lot of variety, a lot of characters. If you want to download stuff off the internet, that's there. We could exist for a long, long time playing that. But if you want some variety, if you want some alternative endings, some different ways to go for the Crown of Command, new challenges, the expansions are the way to go. There's two types. We've got the small box expansions here, which add some alternative endings, some new characters. In this case, it's the Frost March. We've got the Ogre, the Conjurer, and the Alchemist there, and you have to battle the Ice Queen to win the game. That battle replaces the Crown of Command. So essentially, rather than arriving at the crown, you get to that space, you beat the Ice Queen, you get the crown, you win. What this adds, the small box expansions, is a number of cards. So you're going to build up your card library, and it adds 3 or 4 characters depending on the set. Awesome way, really cheap entry point into it. The bigger expansions, and this is the dungeon layout here, add alternative endings to the game. And you really, really get a lot in that set. So you're going to get some new item cards for the regular game, new events, monsters, challenges to face. You're going to get some new spells. And that's the interesting thing. When we add more spells to the game, it really makes some of the pure casters, like the wizard from the base set, that much more awesome. I love playing a jacked up caster in Talisman, just because the level of spells and kind of the things you can do in that, even if I'm playing a strength dude, like sometimes if I'm playing the warrior, I try to build up his craft. Just have like a magic using wielding warrior, because there's so much variety in there. And then you get this board that latches on to the main board, dungeon cards and treasure cards. Now, spoiler alert, we're going to go through the dungeon in part 2 of this video, because I'm going to show you guys how brutal, how unforgiving, how the dungeon does not suffer fools lightly with some of these encounters here. And then, of course, the rewards at the end, what you get. So you go into the dungeon. You make your way through. We start here in the ruins. You go through some corridors, some tunnels. There's a library, torture chamber, guard room. You go deeper and deeper, more tunnels, a vault, a hall of darkness, fungus cavern. Don't smoke it. And then your final goal is the treasure chamber, where the Dark Lord is there. Now, he's strength 12 and craft 12. If you beat him, you get to pick from the treasure pile and then return back to the main board. At that point, if you're not dead, you're going to be pretty jacked up. So it's a great way, if you're playing a big game, to move into the dungeon. All right, let's look at the 2 strategies here behind the dungeon. Now, there's a variety of characters to play in Talisman, and they're not all equal. I won't even say that they're balanced behind there. And the more expansions you get, big box, small box, the more that's going to grow. Now, I should say, when I play with Jawa Balls, BC James, Tattoo Matt, all the guys, we randomize the cards. We shuffle them up, and then we draw one. And you get who you get. So you can draw someone totally broken and jacked up like the leprechaun, teleporting around, changing everything to gold, buying everything. Or you can get gimped, and it's like, really? I pulled the elf? I pulled the troll? Just garbage characters. At that point, usually what happens is, if you draw someone good, and, Jawa Balls is great at playing this game, just if you draw some guys, certain characters, it's like, wow, it's going to be tough. If you draw a gimped character, it's like, how fast can I get this character killed so I can draw another one really quick? You go right into the dungeon, you're going to be dead right away. So this is not, You can't think to yourself, you know what, hey, I'm going to go into the dungeon and pick up some loot and, pull ahead in the game. You need to wait till you're about lower to mid tier. You need to have some craft and some strength boosting you. You need to have a couple of items. You need some ways to negate damage, so potentially the armor or maybe some sort of healing type there. If you can boost up your fate points, you need to be equipped going into the dungeon. So that's the first mistake, where someone goes into the dungeon and they get killed really fast and they're like, oh my God, what happened? Or someone else goes into the dungeon and they're a little bit further equipped, a little bit further along, and they start pulling out these crazy loot cards. And the other players in the board are like, I'm right behind them. I'm heading in there. And if you're not ready, you're going to get hosed. The other thing why I like the big board expansions, and I'm a big fan of all of them, but I, again, would recommend the dungeon first as the starting point, is if you're playing bigger games, it allows alternative entry points for the Crown of Command. It allows someone to kind of go off their own, get away from the pack. If someone gets really, really powerful, then just you don't want to touch them, right? I don't want to be anywhere near these guys because they're going to hit me, they're going to rob me, they're going to kill me. The dungeon, the Highlands, the city offers a different way to the Crown of Command. Okay, so let's go to part 2 here, and I'm going to pull out a random character. And I'm not even going to power him up or do anything. We're just going to pull him out and send him in naked and bare into the dungeon. Part 2.